Excited. Could I use some more light? Could use some more light. Hey, Daphne. I missed you the other day, but I'm glad to see you. What the heck is going on here? Yeah, we got a good lesson coming today. Yeah, it's good to see you. Fire up the chat for me. A busy day. Okay, I can understand that. I'm doing good, doing good. Let's fire up the chat real quick. Let's see here. Let me put a note here in the comments. Consider, yeah, yeah. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm sorry. I used to be able to text and do stuff all at the same time. It doesn't quite work that way anymore. Doesn't quite work that way anymore. But I was trying to get this in. Thank you so much, Daphne. You're such a blessing, girl. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We need to get this out because I tell you what, it's wild how this particular lesson came about. I have all of them planned out for the rest of the year. I had a whole list of school lunches to choose from, right? And it's just been really interesting to know exactly what what to choose from because there's so much that we need to learn. You know what I mean? So let me go ahead and let me get my ring light because I feel like I look dark. Okay, not dark skin, but I don't feel like I'm bright enough like you guys can come into my world. Okay, so give me just a second. I got all kind of chords to step over now. Y'all see what I got on? You see my pink unicorn little house dusties? They're not quite pajamas and they're not quite sweatpants. Dusters, I call them. All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so that looks a little better. A little better. Let's see. Let's get it more white light instead of yellow. Perfect, perfect. So we are not going to prolong the time. We are almost at 5 minutes. Thank you for firing up those comments for me, Daphne. I appreciate you. Um, so as I was saying, the topic came about because um, I came to a place where, like, I've been doing a lot of healing work the last 5 years, right? And I came to a place where I woke up one day. It was time for my bioenergetics therapy session that day. I probably had a couple of hours to get ready. And I actually just didn't feel like working on healing. I just didn't. I was like, you know what? At some point, you got to declare yourself healed and live like it, even if everything, all the gunk has not been yet excavated and it has not, everything has not yet been settled. Of course, you'll always be learning. But I don't think healing has to be a lifelong journey, right? And I don't think it has to be our identity, right? Like the suffering, the healing, the trauma, the things that we've gone through. It doesn't have to be our entire life. And we also have to get to the point where we understand that if we're going to live in joy, if we're going to live in peace, then our focus has to be outside of the suffering. It has to be outside of the trauma. We have to give the light a chance and a space and a place to shine. Okay? And so I think one of the issues that we've gotten into is that we see pain somehow as a proof of growth. When why can't we just see the flowers as the proof of growth, and not the germination of the seed, and not the breaking of the seed, not the breaking of the ground, the excavation? Why do we have to always see the destruction as the proof of growth and not the building itself as the proof? Okay? So romanticizing suffering for today's school lunch. Why pain is not proof of growth. Remember, we are, you bring your lunch, bring your notebooks, take notes. If you want a copy, a PDF copy of this, just leave me a super chat of any amount or a gift or something like that, and I'll be happy to email you a copy, a PDF copy for your purposes if you need it. And so, so that you can have it for a reference. And some of you may actually want to teach this. This is an actual teaching outline, okay? And but I'm not going to give it away for free. The information will be free here in the live, but I'm not going to give the actual work that I put in to create this free, okay? All right, so you can leave a super chat of any amount. Doesn't really matter, okay? So let's start with somewhere along the way, we learned that if it hurts, it means something, right? No pain, no gain. Beauty is pain. You got to give something to get something. There's always this exaction of a pound of flesh in order to prove that you're remorseful or you're sorry, all of these things, or that you have somehow made it in even spirituality. But let's talk about the biology. You guys know I cover different areas of life when it comes to a topic, okay? And so this is where we're going to start with the biology of suffering. Chronic stress equals elevated cortisol, right? Dopamine spikes during release. It's not peace, okay? Your brain actually links pain to reward. And the result is chaos feels exciting, calm feels boring, and peace feels unsafe. This is the same mechanism when it comes to gambling and trauma bonds and things like that, right? The brain doesn't get addicted to pain, it gets addicted to relief. And that's cling, 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 let it click before we move on. We're thinking that people are addicted to pain. No, they're addicted to the in-between states, the calm. They think it's boring, right? They're addicted to the reward, right? But it looks like a reward if it involves some kind of suffering to get to it. Like gamblers, you got to lose money. You got to put money on the table. You got to take that risk, right? If it's a trauma bond, oh, this is somebody who sees my pain and I see their pain, and we're gonna stroke each other's pain, okay? And while you're stroking the pain, you're thinking that's good when it's not, okay? And then as soon as you release the pain and you get closer and closer to less and less suffering, then the relief itself does not feel like peace. Okay? It feels like boredom. It feels unsafe. Okay? So that's why chaos feels exciting. And it's not healthy. It's not physically healthy. Your biology cannot handle that over time and you be well, okay? You know I'm going to talk about the nervous system because this is a part of it, right? There is these three parts are involved in this process of suffering, of romanticizing it, right? There's the ventral vagal part of the nervous system, which involves safety, connection, and ease. Then there's the sympathetic part of the nervous system, which is fight, flight, urgency, and intensity. Okay? Followed by the dorsal vaga, which is shutdown and numbness. Okay? So, what's happening when we get into the suffering, we feel this certain comfort in it, right? It's a way for us to feel a kind of intensity, to kind of feel alive, all right? Or it's a way to shut down. It has its different mechanisms. But a healthy nervous system, you feel safe, you feel connected, and you feel at ease. But when you're in this unhealthy dynamic, your nervous system is seeking familiarity, okay? Familiar pain over unfamiliar peace. All right, so this is not healthy. It's not healthy in the least little bit for your actual physical body. Suffering is not healthy, okay? If you care about your health lifelong, if you care about feeling good in your body lifelong, if you care about being able to do the things that make you feel good lifelong, then you will identify more with a life of peace and ease rather than one of suffering and struggle. Okay? So, let's talk about the attachment and psychology. Now, I don't too much go into attachment styles, okay? Because there are lots of people, including therapists here on YouTube and other places, who have a lot more knowledge about this. I will just give 3 different, very typical known attachment styles and a little highlight of the psychology there. And then just kind of point to what it's meaning, okay? So remember, you guys can leave an apple for the teacher if you want to donate a gift of any kind. All right, so the attachment styles that are usually involved in an identity with suffering and struggle are the anxious, the avoidant, and the disorganized. Now, these particular styles have different layers to them. So there are different types of these styles, but this is the overview of each one. Anxious, which is suffering, equals love. Avoidant, suffering equals independence. Okay, these are people who they won't ask for help. They are hyper independent, right? And then there's the disorganized, which they see suffering as their destiny, right? Everything about their life evolves around suffering. They actually seek it out. They make it happen for themselves. They draw it in, okay? The anxious person, if you don't text them right back, if you're not constantly giving them attention, or the least little body language and cues, they're trying to read everything to see if love is really there, okay? So those are just overviews. Again, you can learn this in detail. It's kind of okay to know your attachment style. I would just say, like I do with all labels, use them as guideposts, not as your full identity. Anything that you are diagnosed with, anything that you notice to be a label of some kind, don't attach to it as your full identity. It is simply a gauge to let you know where you need to heal and how to go about doing it. Okay? So intensity in any of these attachment styles, they get mistaken for intimacy, okay? Attachment wounds don't say this hurts, leave. They say this feels familiar, stay. So any type of these attachment wounds, anxious, avoidance, or disorganized, they're not telling you to leave, and especially to leave in a healthy manner. If you leave, it's usually out of anxiousness, out of fear, out of anger. And so you find yourself in these loops going back to either that person or that situation, or you find someone else to replace them that bring on the same kind of suffering or something else or another job or another dynamic or something, so that you can feel that familiarity, that feel familiar kind of feeling of suffering. Okay, it's like a warm blanket on a cold day, honey. When you have done all you can to like feel normal, and then you realize that, well, not you realize, you think that it's too much work, or you see that you've really got to dig in and start changing this right here and fixing this, and upgrading your environment to support health. Your mind, your spirit, your soul, it gets overwhelmed at the thought of working on healing. Okay? And so there are some cognitive biases at play as well. Okay? So this one is a big one, I think, for women who find themselves in like the breadwinner kind of state, or who have put up with a lot of like cheating or abuse of some kind, right? I'm not saying that this doesn't happen with men. I think the thinking is a bit different with the masculine and the feminine, because men will typically take so much and they'll walk away. Like they will get to a point where they're like, hey man, I'd rather be by myself, or I'd rather go find somebody else. They can move on. Like, that many of them, and not look, I'm not saying everyone, but many of them, if they get divorced, or they well, I won't say divorce, because they tend to take longer to remarry if they ever remarry after divorce. But like if their spouse passes on within a year, most of them are remarried. You see what I'm saying? Because they don't really get attached to the suffering in that way, unless there was some deep, 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 real attachment to that wife. Then they will typically pass away right along with her shortly thereafter. Okay, but this type of cognitive bias is called, there are two, sunk cost fallacy, right? I've invested too much to walk away. So this is why you'll see a lot of women and some men who will have, they'll be like in a marriage or a relationship where they're the breadwinner, while their spouse or their significant other goes to school. And during that time, they're losing themselves throughout this process. And they notice that there's starting to be a disconnection. There's an imbalance in the relationship. There's a disconnection with the amount of love, the amount of respect, right? And as soon as the person gets let's say the degree, and they start making the money, then the person gets dumped. The breadwinner gets dumped, right? After they've spent years supporting this person. But you knew you were supposed to walk away in that first or second year when they started disrespecting you. You knew in that third or fourth year when they started treating you like, you owed them this opportunity just because you're their spouse or their lover. You owed them. You knew you were supposed to walk away then, but by then you've invested so much of your time, your energy, your resources, your health into this dynamic that now it's like, I've invested too much to walk away. When in actuality, you were investing in a dream, and it wasn't your dream, it was theirs. You are not responsible for other people's dreams. You can support them in that, right? With your cheerleader, you can be their cheerleader, right? You can be their soft place to land after a hard day. All right. You can, if you want to be an investor, draw up some paperwork. All right. That way you're not paying for their classes, and then as soon as they get their degree, you got nothing. You're left with nothing. No, if I pay for your classes, this is how much I want. Just like you got to pay back the student loan people, you need to pay me back too. You see what I'm saying? Like, and this will test too. I mean, I don't really like tests in relationships, but this is not a test outright, but it will show you who is there for you and who is there only for what you can offer. This is for everybody. This is not just women. This is for everybody, right? So it's one of those things where you can take that particular energy towards that dream and invest it in yourself. You will have more respect for yourself because you are investing in yourself. And then you will match with someone or meet someone or be around people or family or things like that, where folks walk away, you're not empty. You're not missing anything because you've poured into yourself. Okay. So don't ever invest too much that you feel like you can't walk away. That's the first thing. The second thing is, don't hold on to things that you've invested because you may never get it back. All right. You can assess the situation for what it truly is. All right. And say, hey, I've invested enough to where I should start getting a return on at least respect, on at least kindness, okay? At least on mutual care for my dreams, all right? And if you're not getting that, all you did was invest in an understanding that this partnership is not for you. This family dynamic is not for you. This job is not for you. This church is not for you. You understand what I'm saying? The other bias that we sometimes share or have is meaning-making biases, okay? Humans need coherence. We need things to click. We need circles, okay? And pain becomes sacred to avoid saying to ourselves, it was for nothing, okay? So if suffering has meaning, we don't have to let it end, right? Perfect example. I'm doing my brain checkout, right? Because I think a lot, I do a lot of things with this thing. And so I will start scrolling on like a social media. Sometimes I turn on the TV to turn off my brain. Sometimes I'll give myself 15, 20 minutes to scroll on social media to turn off my brain. And I run across this video where this woman was ranting about a sermon that she heard where the pastor was saying that his wife gave up her dream of being a doctor to be a wife and mother to him. And that was slated as her destiny. And the woman was ranting about it being a destiny swap, which, I'm not arguing that. But that is where people tend to, it was for nothing, your life, okay? You give up your dreams, you give up your ideas, you give up your autonomy, you give up yourself, you give up who you are fully as a person when you become attached to a label identity outside of your full self, right? I used to tell my ex-husband this all the time when he would harp about me being my wife, my wife, my wife. And I'm like, yo, son, hold on. No, I didn't talk to him like that, but I'm standing 10 toes down, and but I'm always very soft when it comes to men, right? Because I'm not going back and forth with you. I'm not going to box with you because I'm too pretty for that inside and out. But I used to say to him, okay, first of all, we need to establish the my thing because you don't own me. All right. And the second thing we need to establish is that I was a person before I met you, and I was this person that you see now, and this who I'll be if you're not here. Okay? I am me. I am not my wife. Okay? That's not the entirety of my being. Okay? That's just a role that I play in your life, but is not my entire life. Okay? So that helped me to keep a certain amount of autonomy to where when I finally began to feel emotionally unsafe in the relationship, and then at some point physically unsafe, I was able to walk away without thinking it was for nothing because I tried. I did the things that I knew to do because he wouldn't talk to me and let me know what he needed. But so I'm in guessing games. We're not going to get into details on all that because that's not what this is about. But it's about not making meaning out of suffering. It's about not feeling like if you walk away, it was all for nothing. If you put yourself into it, if you put your energy into it, if you put your heart into it, it was not for nothing. Okay? If you put $1 in, it was not for nothing. Hello, Aaron. Welcome, sweetheart. If you poured any of yourself lovingly, kindly, righteously, peacefully into a thing, doesn't matter if it's a relationship, a job, a neighborhood, a church, a family member, an organization, doesn't matter what it was. If you poured any part of yourself in that from a pure place, then it was not for nothing. Okay? And even if you had an agenda, right? Sometimes we go into things with an agenda, like we want to network, right? So we'll go to a party. And the idea is to get some numbers, get some connections, things like that. You're not there maybe to genuinely connect with the people there and become friends with them, right? The agenda is to make connections to further or advance yourself in some way, right? But if it's coming from a pure place of advancing yourself, being your best self, reaching your best potential, then it's coming from a pure place, right? So even if you go there and you don't get any connections out of it, right? You don't get any numbers, you don't, wheel or deal, there was still something in it for you because you showed up for yourself. You understand what I'm saying? This is how we have to start really framing things. If you show up for yourself and or if you show up for other people, it was not for nothing. It meant something. You have gained momentum in your psyche, in your nervous system, okay? Your body recognizes the strength that it took to do a thing, okay? Your nervous system recognizes the self-love that it took to do a thing, okay? And then, of course, there are cultural and spiritual bypasses, okay? These are things that get it, they go whoop, whoop, whoop into our mind, they get into our ears, they get into our eyes, they plant in our hearts, and they may not be our truth, okay? Hence, like hustle culture. If you're not grinded, it ain't worth it. If you rest, you're lazy. Come on now. The whole I'll sleep when I'm dead will lead you to early death. Okay? This is not to say don't work for what you need, but work in the sense of work in the sense of creating your dreams does not involve chasing them. It does not involve constant hustle. Rest is a part of creation. Hear what I say? Rest is a part of creation, lovers. Okay? I just got into painting about a year ago, maybe 14, 15 months ago, painting on canvas. And part of my process when it comes to painting is I have a little sketch pad. It's about this big. And I'll get an idea and I'll go in and I'll sketch it out. It may be weeks, it may be months before I start putting anything on canvas. What I'm doing is I'm resting the idea into the ether. Okay? Some things I'll sketch out and I'll paint right away. The very first painting I did, I actually did that because I had to do it for a school assignment. All right? But I didn't rush myself, even though I had like 3 or 4 days to turn this in and I'd never painted on canvas before. I didn't rush myself. I wanted the colors to be a certain thing. I wanted the aesthetic to be a certain thing. I wanted the flow, the visual, the heart of it to be a certain thing. That takes time. That takes a certain amount of stepping back and reassessing, a certain amount of mixing colors and seeing what works and what doesn't. Okay. I wasn't trying to hustle my way through just to get this A plus, because I know me, I'm going to get an A anyway. I already know me. All right. So the hustle and the grinding does not equal your self-worth. Okay. And rest is not laziness. All right. And then that's the hustle culture bypass, right? we bypassing truth, all right, when we need to settle into truth in order to release suffering, all right? Then there's the spiritual bypass. It's a test. Everything ain't a test. Some things is just lifing, okay? Or it's just a manifestation of you needing to rest, or you needing to pivot, or it's showing you another detail that may have been left out, or it's giving you an opportunity to reframe, the whole package of what you're doing. It allows you to embrace change. Like, everything isn't a test, okay? So you'll start to go into all of these scenarios, and then it eats away at your self-esteem as well in certain ways. When hey Delaney, welcome sweetheart. It eats away at your self-esteem in a lot of ways too when you're thinking everything is a test, because you feel like most things that you're going through, you've been through already, or you really don't need them, right? It's just a symptom and a product of whatever's going on in the ether and in the world, and lifing. And so you'll start to turn that onto yourself by asking things like, is this karma? Or saying, this is karma, or this what I get. Okay. And then there's another one. Ooh, this one y'all gonna stone me for, okay? But don't. Everything happens for a reason. No, it don't. Who said that? Who said that? No, it don't. Everything happens for a reason. No, it don't. No, it does not. Everything does not happen for a reason. Okay? There is the law of cause and effect into play, but it doesn't play into every single thing that happens. Cause and effect comes in from your internal mechanism and the actions that play out as a result of that. However, if lightning strikes a tree outside, it was just because it was lightning that day. Okay? There's no reason for it. Okay? So the idea is integration is not endurance. And by that, I mean taking on all of these things, these cognitive biases, and, all of this, if it's not suffering, it's not meaning, that's not endurance. When you're integrating all the stuff into your identity, you're integrating all the heaviness, all the trauma, that's not endurance. All that is just breaking down your central nervous system, is tearing down your body. It's eating away at your mind, your thoughts, your love, your hope, your dreams, your trust. Okay? It's not endurance. And awareness is not suffering. Oh, I see what's going on there. Oh, wow. Yeah. I need to take the bad part of this. No. The bright side is a real thing, and it's okay to have one. Do not let people tell you that there is a such thing as toxic positivity. The two cannot go together. They are oxymoronic in turn. Okay? Toxic positivity, how can that be a phrase? There's nothing wrong with being happy and seeing the bright side. All right? That's another cultural bias that we need to get rid of. Just like toxic masculinity. Okay, don't come for me. Masculinity cannot be toxic. The two cannot they cannot coexist. If someone is toxic, they are not masculine. That's a whole nother lesson for another day that we'll never get to, because y'all know what I mean. It's very self-explanatory. All right. Okay, let's see how some of this shows up in real life. We're going to do some stuff. This is how it shows up in relationships. I'm just going to give a couple of examples. One, relationships, and the other is work and identity. All right. So, emotional instability equals passion. Woo! We argue, we fuss and fight, we call each other names, we can't control ourselves, we're angry at each other all the time, and therefore we act out in anger and not in love because we're so passionate. Lie to yourself. Lie to yourself. It's not passion, okay? It's just unregulated emotion. It's unregulated emotion. It's not passion. It's childishness in some cases, foolishness in others. In other cases, it's just self-hate. All right. In other cases, it's hate for the other person. It's resentment. It's bitterness disguised as passion. Come with me now. Another dynamic in the relationship we talked about is shared trauma or trauma bonds. Okay, we get together and we stroke each other's pain. Oh, baby, that happened to me too. Or, oh, baby, don't leave me. Ain't nobody never loved me before. Yes, I understand. Because my mom, she called me fat one day and I've never recovered from it. I'm not saying it's not traumatic. My mother-in-law literally called me fat to my face one day. And it was not a pleasant feeling. Okay, I can laugh at it now. Well, back then I wanted to strangle that bitch, okay? But and she did it so nice, nasty, y'all. That person, I ain't gonna talk too bad about it because she done passed to the other side. But we're sitting there at the table. She never liked me, y'all. From day one, this woman hated me. I should have known not to marry that man based on that right there. But anyway, this was after we had been married, I'm guessing maybe 5, 6, 7 years. And we're sitting outside at the picnic table because one of the sisters was having a shindig. And she's sitting at the head of the table as usual. And I'm sitting over here. And she says, "You done gained a little weight, ain't you?" This is how she talked. "You done gained a little weight, ain't you?" I was like, no, I've pretty much always been this. And before I could get this size out, she said fat. So she finished my sentence with, "I've pretty much always been this fat." Oh my God, you better be glad you're 80, because if you were my age, I would stomp a mud hole in you right now, woman. Okay, but anyway. Yes, Delaney. That's how she was. I'm gonna tell y'all why she didn't like me, Daphne, at the end of the lesson. All right. So This is another one right here. That staying requires self-erasure, meaning it requires you giving up your identity, giving up your own passions, dreams, hopes, ideas. Okay? That is not love. That is not true connection. That is not, a vision of love. Okay? That's romanticizing suffering. If I give up my dream of being a doctor to become this preacher's wife and mom, then that means I fulfilled my destiny. No, what you did was you swapped your destiny for his command of your life. What God would say, don't become a healer to wash some man's drawers and make him a sandwich when he want one. What God would say that? Yeah, somebody gonna get mad at this one. But yeah, what God would tell you not to become a healer so that somebody can suckle on your titty until they get 18 and go on about their life. Ain't no God gonna tell you that. No. If you get somewhere in your being the idea of becoming a healer of any kind, nurse, doctor, medicine woman, shaman, whatever, herbalist, nutritionist, don't let nobody talk you out of that, especially if you got a good heart and you're going into it for the right reasons. That's destiny swapping at its finest. That's the alter ether. I call it the alter ether, but it's the dark side of reality, not wanting true healers and lovers in the world so that it can maintain the status quo. That's a whole nother spiritual lesson. But self-erasure does not equal love. And we count the suffering of that as something that's supposed to be, and it's not. Okay, we're not erasing ourselves to prove that we're something to somebody else. You should be everything to yourself. Everything. To yourself, for yourself, by yourself, with yourself, in yourself, on yourself, outside of yourself, around yourself. You should be everything. I'm not talking about being an asshole, self-centered, arrogant. I'm talking about being confident. I'm talking about knowing your truth, knowing your worth, acting in your own best interest. Okay? Putting yourself at the top of the list of everything in your life. Because trust me, you are the only person you have to spend time with 24/7, 365 in every time or space. When you go into the bathroom, even if there are other people in the house, who you with? Yourself. When you're in the car, whether there are people in the car or not, who are you with? Yourself. When you go into the dream world, go to sleep at night, who are you with? Yourself. You are the only person that you are always with. Therefore, you must matter first. Not only, but first. Your kids will survive and love themselves, life, and you more if you put yourself first. Trust me. Kids do not care when they get 30 that you poured out your whole life for them. They don't care. They do not. You know what? They're going to expect more of it. You're not going to be able to live. Oh, well, now that my kids are grown, let me go live my dreams. No, they're going to put your ass on home, or they're going to talk you out of it because they need that access to you that they've always had. Y'all don't believe me? There's this author from he was from the 1890s, I think. He was one of the pioneers of philosophical new thought, right? Not just the spiritual woo-woo stuff, but philosophical new thought. His name is Prentice Mulford. Let me put it in the, matter of fact, his audio book. Well, I think you have to be okay with listening to an automated voice, but if you can't listen to that, find this book. I'm finna put it in the, but he'll talk about this. Prentice Milford. Is it Milford? No, it's Mulford. Okay. And the book is called Thoughts or Things. There's another guy that wrote a book, I think, called that. But his is, y'all, when I say the revelations are gonna come, that are gonna come from this, I'm putting it in the chat now. For those of you who are not mothers or parents yet, you need to read this before you become a parent. If you are a new parent of younger children, you need to read this now. If you are a parent who is older, you need to read this now. Don't wait, say, oh, I'll get to it. If you can't read, listen to the audio book. I'm trying to tell you. You're going to hear the first 2 chapters and sit your ass down somewhere. I don't recommend things that did not impact me deeply. Okay? This is not to say be selfish. Y'all are smart. Y'all understand. Y'all don't come to school lunch because you're slow. Okay? Y'all are smart. You're very smart. So if your children go no contact with you, then honey, eat that biscuit dry and then go find some honey for your life. If you are a child who went no contact with your parents, that's fine. I'm not saying don't do that. Just know if they go on and live their life, then that's good. You go live yours too, but don't stay in the suffering narrative. This is what we're coming out of. We're not romanticizing the suffering that happened to cause that separation and that split. I'm going to be talking about child parental no contact in, I think it's the next live. So come back next week. But we're going to go into that in detail, okay? Because it's a big thing nowadays. It was something unheard of in my day. The only way you was going no contact with your parents is if they died. And the only way your parents was going no contact with you is if you died or you went off into the world and they couldn't find you somewhere. Okay? That was the only kind of no contact we ever heard of back in the day, but it's a big deal now. So I want us to face it head on. We are talking about topics that will get us through life. So if you haven't caught the other school lunches, I want you guys to go back and do that. All right. So here's another way it shows up. Remember, I told you we're going to talk about work and identity. All right. Burnout as a flex. I have been recovering from burnout, which is why I took this last block out of school and why I have been having minimal contact with friends. Okay. I only spend time with male company when I feel like it. Okay. It's not, they don't get to call me up and say, hey, I'm coming over. If I don't feel like it, no, you ain't. Okay. They don't text me in the middle of the night. There ain't none of that going on. It's when I feel like it. But I like masculine energy. It energizes me. It increases my femininity while at the same time balancing the masculine within. Help me get shit done. Okay. So, and then the ones that I deal with are very low emotional maintenance. Okay. They don't stress me out. All right. So I'm recovering from burnout, but it's not a flex burnout. It was a way that I did not put boundaries into full capacity around my energy. Okay. I was in school, I was dating, doing lots of YouTube lives, because it's different when you're doing lives than it is when you're doing pre-recorded, because there are people like literally pulling on your energy in real time, right? So you're pouring out energy, you're receiving energy. So it's a lot, right? And I wasn't putting boundaries around that, while at the same time doing personal readings, which is the same dynamic, but even deeper, because you're actually going into deeper personal realms of people's lives, okay? So I wasn't putting boundaries around that. I ended up burnt out. So it was like, okay, girl, this ain't cute. We ain't doing this, right? We're gonna rest. Remember we talked about earlier the power of this rest? All right. Creation requires rest. Y'all know this, especially if you're Christian. On the seventh day, God rested from creation. He was creating 6 whole days. On the seventh day, he rested, according to the Bible. According to the word, okay? All right, productivity as morality. Ooh. Guilt around rest. It's one of the biggest things. Okay, burnout as afflicts, productivity as morality, and guilt around rest. Honey, stop it. Stop it. Sit your ass down somewhere. It's okay. The world ain't gonna fall apart. The people who judging you know what else they judging you for? They judging you for going too hard. They gonna judge you when you sit down. They gonna judge you when you balance your life. Okay? They gonna judge you when you got nothing. They gonna judge you when you got something. You just gonna be judged. Make sure you're not the one doing it to yourself. Their self-talk is worse than outside talk. Because outside talk gonna talk. There's chitter chatter in the ether all the time. On the ethernet and in the ether. It's chitter chatter. Always somebody got their mouth on you, their eyes on you, their thoughts on you. But what about you? What's your eyes on? What are your thoughts on? What are your words on when it comes to you? We ain't doing it. We're not going to inflict suffering on self from within self. Who doing that? Not us. Not no more. Okay, after today, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Don't come to me talking about how. Oh, woe is me because, I got 12,000 things to do. And if I don't get them done, I'm a piece of No, I don't want to hear it. You're a piece of... To who? Because if you're a piece of... To you, then you're to everybody. And they're going to treat you like it. Fuck them kids. I'm just saying people in general when I say that, okay? One of the biggest things is capitalism trained us to monetize our nervous system. We're talking about work and identity here. Capitalism trained us to monetize our nervous system. Some of us, our entire lives evolve around work. We get no play, we get no rest. Even the play and the rest that we get evolves around work. I'm going to tell you what that looks like. You get up at 6 a.m. because you have to go to work. You shower, you get dressed. Everything that you wear has to be appropriate for the job. You get your kids up. You get them ready. Everything that they wear has to be appropriate for the factory called school. You get in the car that you bought because you got to get back and forth to work, not because you want to travel in it or blah, blah, blah. You bought the car so you can get back and forth to work so the kids can get back and forth to their factory called school. You're driving in traffic. You're upset and nervous because your kids might be late for their factory and you might be late for your job. You're nervous the entire time. You get to work. You do your work. You've got to deal with energies, bodies, policies, blah, blah, blah the entire time. 8, 12, 14, for some people 16 hours. So that's what? If you work a double, that's 18 hours out of 24. You get in your car coming back from work. Your kids have put in their time at the factory, they're at daycare waiting on you, they're at after school care waiting on you, they're at a friend's house waiting on you, or they're home alone waiting on you. But they're doing homework to take back to the factory called school the next day. You get home, now you've got to cook dinner, which you didn't have time to really prepare anything nice because you were at work all day. So you've got to either pick up something on the way home that is unhealthy, or you've got to prepare something packaged. Or if you do get to prepare something healthy, it can only be a 10, 20, 30-minute quick meal. And then you all are barely able to sit down around the table and connect with each other, because now you either got to check homework, or you've got to do your homework, or you've got to get ready for work the next day. Even when you shower and get ready for bed, you've got to concern yourself with not staying up too late, because you've got to get up at 6 o'clock and do the shit all over again. What do you think your nervous system is saying? What do you think your nervous system is feeling? Your nervous system is plugged into the grid of that life. Now, let me just say, I am not one of those spiritual woo-woo people who has anything against people working a regular job. Work that motherfucking job. Work it. If that's what you want, and that's what you like, and that's how you want to make your money, go do that. Do it all with all your might and all that heart. Don't leave yourself out of the equation. Don't lack on recreation. And don't make your recreation about, oh, I got to be at that job tomorrow at 10. When you leave that job, leave that motherfucker. I know I've been cussing a lot today because I got shit to say today, okay? When you leave that job, you leave it. Leave it. Leave it. When you shut your car door, when you get on that bus, when you get in that Uber, however you leave that job, it drops out of your mind until that alarm goes off the next day. Nothing about your day, your weekend, your life exists around that job anymore. Unless you're on call, then honey, we ain't doing it. Okay? Don't pressure your kids in school so much that they lose their identity to trying to make those grades. If that's what they love, if they love getting A's and it's just part of how smart they are and it comes easy to them. But if they're sitting there crying, trying to get this homework done and trying to figure it, honey, Google that shit. Let them turn in that work and go about their life. Because in 18 years, it ain't going to matter. It's just not. Just make sure they're learning. Don't make sure that they're plugging in everything, all of their being into this factory work. Make sure they can read, they can write, they can do math. They understand some history, okay? And find out what they like, what they want to be, what they want to do, and pour into that. That's how successful, healthy, secure-minded people are created. Okay? Don't put them behind the 8 ball trying to chase the system. All right? Release them from that suffering. Because the real cost, we have so many people with anxiety nowadays. So many people with depression, emotional numbing, like they don't feel nothing. They just shut down and going through the motions. Or loss of self-trust. You just don't want to do anything that makes you feel good because you don't trust yourself. We're not doing it. And then there's the physiological effects. Inflammation, immune system suppression, hormonal dysregulation. The body keeps receipts even when the mind tells stories. You can tell yourself this, some in here all day long. You can tell yourself some in here all day long, but the body got the receipts. The body gonna tell the truth. Them heart palpitations, them panic attacks, them swollen glands, those lumps in different parts of your bodies, the cancers, the fibroids, all those PCOSs, the testicular swelling, the feet swelling, the big knees, the back hurt, the neck pain, the headaches, okay, the scratchy throats, the constant colds, the eye strain, the ears ringing, the numbness in your hands. Can I go on and on? The body keeps the score. The gut issues, the losing weight, the gaining weight, the confusion, the fogginess, foggy mind, okay, the nausea, the skin conditions, all that pain coming up through your skin, the eczema, the psoriasis. The body keeps the score. I'm not saying these aren't real conditions. I'm not saying that, because you said, Daphne, you're a victim of it. Yes. I'm not saying they're not real conditions. I'm saying look at the receipts. Figure out what you went shopping for and take that shit back to the store. It don't fit. It don't fit, and it'll never fit. It ain't your size. It's just a bag of suffering that you brought home that don't fit. You tried that shit on. It didn't work. Take it back. All right. Deconditioning the suffering narrative. This is nervous system reconditioning. Okay. Practice stillness without outcome. That could be meditation. That could be grounding, like just sitting outside with your feet in the dirt. That could be just sitting out in the sun having a cup of tea. That could be just sitting on your couch doing nothing, just sitting there. You might be scrolling, you might not. But don't be scrolling for escape. That's a different story. Like I told y'all, I'll scroll 15, 20 minutes just to shut my mind off, because it works a lot. Okay. That could be even something as simple as, like, you just want to sit down and maybe sketch. Stillness without outcome. Even if you're sketching or you're journaling, don't do these things thinking about how it's supposed to be, what it's supposed to look like. What am I supposed to be thinking? What is this supposed to mean? You are just there, and it's okay to just be still. It's a requirement if you want to recondition your nervous system, if you want to take those receipts and take that shit back to the stove. Stillness is required, okay? Pleasure without productivity. This means you give yourself things to do, activities that you like, that don't involve trying to be productive or getting anything or giving anything. You're just doing something you enjoy. Pleasure without productivity. And rest without explanation. If you need to go lay down, go lay down. You don't owe nobody nothing. If they fed, if they safe, go lay down. If you are single and you're not getting no rest, you ain't got no kids, then honey, what you doing? Go lay down if you're tired. All you got to do is give yourself a 20, 30-minute nap. If it turns out to be 2 hours, that's the receipt that your body needed it. But you can give yourself 20, 30 minutes. You better give yourself 20, 30 minutes. Okay? If peace feels boring, then healing is happening. If you getting bored, just sitting there, oh, I'm bored. If your kids come to you and tell you they bored, you tell them, hallelujah. That means you're at peace. You're going to be a whole and healed individual the more bored you are. One thing that I have learned in having people that I have talked to who have had addictions, right? and they've overcome them. All right. One of the things that they say that they noticed very early on is boredom. And that was one of the hardest things for them to fight. They think it's boredom when it's really just their nervous system saying, "Whoo, child, we get to breathe." It's not boredom, it's peace. Okay? Let's look at solution number 2. That's solution number 1, nervous system reconditioning. The second one is redefine depth. Depth is not pain tolerance, trauma endurance, chaos navigation. Put this in your notes. Depth or meaning is not pain tolerance. It's not trauma endurance. How much trauma can you endure? And it's not navigating chaos successfully. Chaos should not be your default. And managing chaos should not be your default. Chaos in life should be an every now and then kind of thing. It should not be an all the time ongoing thing. It should be kind of like an annual checkup. You know they're going to put that, if you're a dude, you know they're going to put that finger up your butt. If you're a chick, you're over 40 and you're getting your mammogram, you know they're going to press the hell out of your titty, right? You see what I'm saying? That's chaos, okay? Or, maybe needing a lawyer once in a while. If you need a lawyer all the time, that's chaos, and you need to check in and start really tapping into the Ethernet to get rid of that, whatever's keeping you in a legal loop, okay? It's like running a marathon. You ain't gonna run no marathon every quarter. I promise you that. As marathon runners, you ain't gonna be doing that. All right? It takes you months and months to prepare for a marathon. All right? So a marathon is chaos, by the way. It's controlled chaos, but it's chaos. So what it looks like is emotional literacy, right? You accept and understand your feelings, and you know how to navigate with them and from them, as opposed to steering blindly with your emotions. It's boundary clarity. You set boundaries for yourself that bring in peace, light, love, hope, happiness, cheer, all the things, right? And you set those boundaries with other people. And you're very clear about those. And you stand on business, as they say, 10 toes down on that. And response over reaction. If I could have bottled that, the way I respond to things now, if I could have bottled that by the time I was 17 years old, my life would have been so much easier and so less chaotic. It took me 51 years to start understanding how to respond, and 50, I would say, 3 years to really get it kind of in the medium range. Now, I'm kind of on the expert side of knowing how to respond rather than react, right? Thank you, Jesus. This is no brag. This is me saying, good job, sunshine. All right, you did that shit, because it was not easy to learn. It was not easy to regulate that. But I decided that I want a life of ease and not suffering, not struggle. Okay? Solution number 3. Interpret meaning making. Y'all still here? I see you up there. Let's comment, because I'm getting I'm feeling alone right now. Interpret meaning making. Ask these questions. I hope y'all taking notes. Ask these questions. Thank you, Delaney. What do I learn by leaving? Right? Interrupt meaning making. Just vibing and cleaning. Good deal. What do I learn by leaving? You got to interrupt trying to make meaning of things that you've stayed in too long. By leaving, what can you learn? Okay, because you've learned enough by staying. You've learned plenty. You probably learned too much. Okay, now you got information overload. Okay, but what can you learn by leaving? What does staying preserve? If I stay here, what am I keeping in here? It's probably a whole lot of bullshit. All right. By staying, you're preserving what? All that internal conflict and all those bodily receipts we talked about. All right. And who am I without this struggle? And or who am I without struggle? Oh, that was a big one for me. Having to learn my identity outside of suffering has been one of the biggest milestones that I've had to cross. That was one of the biggest reconnections to self that I had to plug into. Who am I without suffering? Other questions, or statements, I should say. Statements of note and fact. I'm going to say note and fact. Not all pain needs a lesson. So it may be that you just don't need to learn nothing from this. You just don't need to be going through it. You don't need to be a crackhead to learn that crack ain't for you. Not all pain needs a lesson. Some pain just needs an ending. Sometimes you just got to let go. You don't need no meaning behind it. You don't need no purpose. You don't have to explain yourself to the universe, to God, to him, to her, to them, to they. When it comes to relieving pain, why do you need to explain that? This is hurtful. I'm getting the hell on. Or you hurt me. I don't need your apology. I'm getting the hell on. Your apology is for you at this point. It's not for me, and I don't need it. I'm getting the hell on. All right. Solution number 4. Macy 142, is that a serious question? If it is, let's hold it until the end, because I'm almost toward the end, okay? Solution number 4, identity beyond survival. That's what I was just talking about. You can't choose survival as a personality. Peace may feel like loss at first, but it is not loss. It is just peace. That's all it is. We ain't got to give it no whole bunch of fanfare. It's just peace. Just be okay with it. Okay? Practice enjoyment without guilt, ease without collapse, desire without apology. Practice enjoyment without guilt, ease without collapse. You're not going to fall out on yourself because you're letting yourself be at ease. You're not going to mentally collapse because you're like, oh no, this is too easy. Come on now. It's okay. And desire without apology. The things that you want, as long as they don't hurt yourself or others, they don't need an explanation or an apology. Solution number 5, intimacy over intensity. All that arguing, fussing, fighting, all it does is spike dopamine and increase intensity, and you get hooked on the, like we talked about before, you're not hooked on the dopamine spike. You're hooked on the release. You're waiting for that little pocket of peace. Why not just have it all the time and be happy? Create intimacy, which is oxytocin regulation. Healing happens through consistency, not fireworks. Fireworks burn shit down, okay? Healing happens through consistency. Here are some signs that you're healing. Yay, you. Okay, I'm cheering for you in advance, all right? Remember, you guys can get this PDF Hey, Joe Gonzalez, I'm doing good. I missed you as well. Remember, you guys can get this PDF for any size donation, but I hope you're taking notes, and you can leave an apple for the teacher in the gift or super chat of any amount, okay? Signs that you're healing. You find yourself leaving unhealthy, disrespectful, or unkind, or, you know, things that make you nervous, anxious atmospheres. You find yourself leaving earlier or quickly, more quickly, hey, CD, than you used to. Okay? You are getting out of thinking you have to stay or thinking you have to accept things. You're getting out of that easier and quicker. You guys hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. All right? You approach life with less urgency, right? Everything does not have to be right now, right now, right now. You're okay with just watching, observing, letting things, be chill, letting things, okay, play out, see what's happening. Then you can make an informed decision, right? So everything is less urgent. Nothing has to be right now, right now, right now. That's a sign that you're healing. If you're leaving situations that don't serve you earlier, and there's less urgency or need for doing, there's less explaining. You just doing you, and whoever don't like it, they all right, and you don't feel the need to fix it or explain it, right? There's less chasing. You ain't chasing nobody for love. You ain't chasing nobody for attention. You ain't chasing a dollar. You ain't chasing nothing. You just moving along at your own pace, doing your own life, your own thing, your own way. As long as you're not hurting yourself or other people, you're good. All right? And more neutrality. Everything is everything. You're cool. I'm cool. We cool. It's cool. You know, you ain't putting no hate on it. You ain't putting no love on it. It just is what it is. That's how you know you're healing. Peace feels like exhaling. All right? So that is the end. Peace feels like exhaling. All right? So let me ask you this. What if growth isn't about becoming stronger, but about becoming less armored? Right? You don't have the armor on because you ain't fighting nothing. You're not struggling. All right? Therefore, there's no need for suffering. Okay? What if the next level of your life isn't harder, it's gentler? The end of the lesson. Okay? So that went a little bit over my time. But I will take a few minutes for Q&A. Okay, Daphne, you asked why the mother-in-law didn't like me. She did not like me because her son, my ex-husband, lived with her his entire life. He was 39, and she had another autistic son who was older than him, who was very low on the spectrum and needed help with all things, including bathing and, making sure he was, he could feed himself, but he couldn't like go in the kitchen and fix things, right? So my ex was there as a father ex parte. He was also, they were also very religious, not necessarily spiritual, but definitely religious. And so here I come along, this, even though I was in the church, I was worldly according to what they thought, because for whatever reasons aren't really important. And upon our first conversation, he had told me about some things that he wanted for himself. One was he had always wanted his own place. And so I just told him how he could get his own place. I didn't say nothing about you should or you come live with me, because I wasn't finna be shacking with no dude. I just didn't want to be bothered in that way anyway. And so he, unbeknownst to me, went about making those things happen for himself. Apparently he was paying attention. So I go over there one day because we were going to a wedding together. I went to pick him up because he couldn't drive because he had vision problem. And I went to pick him up, and I'm sitting out in the car waiting because they had already shown and proved that they didn't like me, because when I would call the house sometimes, she would just not let him answer the phone, or she would answer the phone and tell me he can't talk. So I go over there for a wedding one day to pick him up, and I'm sitting in the car waiting. Honey child, when I say the big sister came out the house, walking down the driveway out to the street where I was parked, walking like silly through the cornfield, and opened my door and said, "You told Harpo to beat me." Those were not her exact words, but I felt cornered in that cornfield like silly. But all I did was told the man how he could get his own place if he wanted it. So apparently that was a big problem. Okay. And so, yeah, but she didn't like me from day one because, you can imagine this. He finally meets a girl that likes him because he had literally nothing to his name. He lived with his mama his whole life, right? And he didn't work because he was taking care of her and the kid and the other brother. So he had nothing. And I think the idea was to keep him that way so he wouldn't, So here I come along and I like him just for him, which means eventually he's going to, want to explore that more. And child, from day one, I was target number one after that. All right. So there was another question about bullying. Macy 142, are you still in the room? Because I'm not just going to answer that if you're not here, because I need clarification on pro or anti bring back bullying. What kind of campaign is this? What does that mean? How does that look? If we bring back bullying, what does that mean? What does that look like? All right. So while I'm waiting on Macy 123 to answer, Daphne, you say you know the feeling? Yeah. While I'm waiting on him or her to answer, go ahead. If anyone else has any questions or comments, let me know. But questions, I'm taking questions right now. Okay, I'm going to get off in a couple of minutes if no one has questions, because I have not eaten yet, and yeah, it's well after time. And I do need to take my meds. I got my workout in today. That was fun. Or one of them. Any other questions? Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Oh, Macy 142. You ain't doing no poll, because if you were, you'd have stuck around. Or even if you are, like, you can't just come and ask questions like that, and then when you don't get an answer right away, you leave, because your intentions are not pure. If your intentions are pure, come back and put your explanation in the comments. But it's probably not even here. Y'all see what I'm saying? Y'all see why I don't answer stuff like that right off the bat? Y'all see why I don't put my energy into a lot of things? You understand? This is how I respond and not react. Yeah. Because you're not going to waste my energy. All right. So what did you guys think about the lesson? Let me know in the comments. I need some feedback. What did you guys think about today's lesson? What did y'all hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already? What did y'all think about today's lesson on romanticizing suffering? Why pain is not proof of growth. Remember, you can get this PDF. Even if you come along later and watch this, you can leave some kind of super chat or a super thanks and put your email in the comments. And I will definitely email you your PDF copy of this. Daphne, you say you loved it? Awesome. What part hit home the most for you? Anyone else want to give feedback on the lesson today? And you guys know you can always go back and watch this, right? Of course. Hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. How's your baby doing? Is his tummy still doing better? Um, yeah, suffering not needing a lesson. Amen. Shoot. I mean, we just gonna live. Yes, Daphne. Yeah, not everything has a purpose. Like everything doesn't happen for a reason. Sometimes you just need to get the hell on, okay? But yeah, 24/7. Awesome. Yay, I love that for him. I love that for him. You know, I was having my bioenergetics therapy session yesterday, guys, and this is somebody who is an old sage healer, right? And he has had very many spiritual experiences that have been documented. Um, and so I'm sitting there in my session, and I don't know what I said to him. And he says to me, well, yeah, in many of your past lives, you were, what do you call it? You were a medicine woman and a green witch. I was like, a medicine woman and a green witch in many of them, he said. And I was like, what the hell is a green witch? Them the ones that use herbs and stuff. They would be today's herbalists who have actual healing energy. Okay. But yeah, I was like, you know what? I can see that. I can really see that. So now that you're telling me that, I'm telling you what you told me, what I told you to help him, Daphne, was very instinctual. It was not something that I had necessarily like studied on how to help your baby. It all came straight from inner knowing and higher light. You know what I mean? So I could see when he said that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna ask Daphne how her baby doing, because he would benefit from that, and other people would benefit from that, and that's probably what I got through my bloodline from my mom as well, because I think I told y'all that story about how my baby, his stomach used to hurt all the time. Well, I didn't know his stomach was hurting, but he used to cry all the time from birth till about 5 months. And I had called for my mom, like, Mom, please come visit. She lived like 80 miles away at the time. She came, and I was like, Mom, you got to tell me, like, can you help me find out what's wrong with him? And she took my baby out of my hands. Now, this is as soon as she walks in the door, y'all. She took my baby out of my hands, and she held him. And she put her hand on his stomach. She turned him over like this. She turned him over like that. She tilted him up and looked at him. She handed him back to me, and she says, it's the iron in his milk. And I switched up his milk, and immediately that boy stopped crying. Okay, and I mean, it's like it helped. Yeah. So, yeah, I changed his formula. And so, yeah, so when you were telling me that, it was all very, very instinctive and intuitive and, higher led. And so I was like, see there, you really out here helping people, and just think you on here reading cards. I got to give myself more credit, y'all. I got to. But I'm so glad he's doing better. Ain't nothing like pooping every day. I'm trying to tell you, if I don't poop when I feel like I need to poop, I get irritable, I get sluggish, I just turn into like a ugh. I be wanting to box everything. That's probably what I was telling my guy friend, my lover, the other day. I was like, why people, I think part of people's problem is they don't poop enough and they don't get enough hugs. I think really, if people got rid of their constipation, and they got more hugs, there would be a lot less anger in the world. And if they're adults, if they got laid more in a healthy and good way, consensual and loving sex, not just sex for the sake of sex, but if it's like good loving, a nice hug, and a good poop, the world would right itself, would it not? Oh, thank you, Daphne. Thank you so much. The world would right itself, okay? Everything would balance out. So I will be back tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Central Time for our regular format, reading cards and, story time and stuff. And then also the flash sale on readings will run until the day before Christmas Eve, the 23rd. So if you wanted to get a end of the year reading for a discounted price, then you'll want to take advantage of that. Okay. All righty then. Well, that is your school lunch for today. Next week we will be discussing parent-child no contact. All right. And then the last week, what will we be discussing for the last week? Hold on, I have it right here. Just a second. Because you guys know after today we only have 2 more. We'll be discussing parental no contact. And then we'll be discussing timelines for the last one. Yeah, timelines, what they mean, all that kind of stuff. So that one's going to be fun and interesting. So you will know how to take advantage of time itself, all right, of the layering of your life and the past, the present, and the future. How to make it into something tangible and powerful for yourself. Woo! I can't wait for that one. I can't wait for either one of them. All right. So go ahead and check out that book today, you guys. Thoughts or Things by Prentice Mulford. Especially if you are a parent or plan to be a parent. Okay. But not only that, it's not just for that. That's not the whole thing the book is about. The final week on the 30th is timelines. Next week is parental no contact. Okay. But that book is not just about that. That's just a part of it that's very powerful. But the entire book is powerful, and it's really going to help you shape your identity around self-worth. Okay? Help shape it and be a part of it. Because, I've given you guys many, many books on this. Okay? A Snowy Man. Consciousness allows us to love, sacrifice, and suffer for meaning beyond ourselves. Why do we seek purpose over survival when that occurs nowhere else in the universe? Consciousness allows us to love, sacrifice, and suffer for meaning beyond ourselves. I don't think consciousness has anything to do with that. I think that is programming. And we can talk about it. No, I don't need to talk about it. I just did a whole lesson on why that is not truth. That is identity. That is, because sacrifice has no meaning at all. And I'm going to say something that might seem sacrilegious, but if sacrifice had meaning, then why didn't Christ's death cause less suffering? Hey, ID 33 or LD 3346 from Liverpool. We seek purpose over survival. Purpose is survival. If you're not living in your purpose, all you are is just dead weight and just a body walking around. You're not really thriving or surviving. You're just here. Purpose is survival. And if your purpose is suffering and sacrifice, then you're just a programmed entity. That is not consciousness. Consciousness allows us to evolve and grow into peace, into bliss, into neutrality. because that's what consciousness is. Consciousness is a marker of the maker, the creator, the creative force that we are. It is not the creator. It is a marker of the creator. The whole God is love trope comes from this exaction, this extrapolation. If you are, hear me out. If here, and this is not directed to a snowy man, this is in general. If you are sacrificing yourself, you are creating unnecessary suffering for yourself, and you are racking up karma and not fulfilling your dharma. Suffering and sacrifice are not necessary for your purpose. The more peace you have in your purpose, the more powerful it will be. Your dharma is your true life path and the purpose that it serves. It can change over time. You can will it the way you want based on what makes you at peace and happy. But it's your true life path. And I will leave that at that. Y'all can rewind if you need to hear it. But no truer words have been spoken, and no more need be said. All right. So we got 2 more school lunches for the year. Then those are over with. Then we go back to our Sunday and Wednesday format. I'm probably going to end Sundays in February. But I may put like a membership in place or something like that for those of you who feel like you need more than the Wednesdays. What I'm doing is really cultivating, preserving energy so that the impact that I do make is more powerful, right? I'm streamlining my purpose and understanding more my dharma. Okay? Whatever brings me more peace, all right? I'm not sacrificing anymore, all right? So I don't need to sacrifice to have impact. I think I've proven that I have impact without that. Have I not? Okay. So I got laundry to do. I need to eat food. I need to eat food first. I need to do laundry. And there was one other task. I haven't done my meditation today yet. I'm excited about it today because we have really filtered some stuff. Okay. Thank you, Daphne. Thank you for the stars, Delaney. You guys share this live, okay? Share this live because I feel like we really touched on some things that can really break some chains and set people free, okay? And I even learned from these things. These aren't things that I just come and like, oh, you know. I learn. I have to learn in order to teach it, but even while I'm teaching it, I learn more, okay? So I want you guys to really share it. Okay, until tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Central Time, you guys have a blessed and wonderful Tuesday. Tap into that self-love in a way like you never have. Think of ways in your life where suffering has been propagated and put that shit in the trash and just enjoy yourself. All right. Give yourself a few moments of ease and stillness today. All right. Until next time, I am Jua and you have been fed. See y'all later. Love you guys. Bye, Daphne. Bye, Delaney. One love. I know that's right.